Welcome back to Narrations. Tonight's story is sharp, loud, uncomfortable in places, and unexpectedly sincere. The ugly truth pretends to be about dating rules and brutal honesty, but underneath, it's really about fear, control, and what happens when two people hide behind opposite defenses. This is the story of Abby Richter and Mike Chadway. Abby Richter believes in order. She believes in structure, preparation, and control. Her mornings are precise. Her clothes are chosen carefully. Her career is meticulously managed. As a television producer for a morning show in Sacramento, Abby's job is to make things look perfect, even when they aren't. And most of the time, she succeeds. Abby works hard. She plans every detail. She knows what makes good television, what audiences respond to, and how to keep things running smoothly. Her colleagues respect her efficiency, even if they quietly roll their eyes at her rigid standards. What Abby does not believe in is chaos. Especially not romantic chaos. Dating to Abby is a formula. Compatibility, shared values, long-term potential. She has lists. Deal breakers. Expectations. She believes if you do everything right, love should follow logically. But logic hasn't delivered much happiness. Her love life is a series of disappointments disguised as optimism. First dates that go nowhere. Men who don't meet her expectations. Situations that unravel the moment reality intrudes on her carefully curated plans. Abby refuses to believe the problem is her system. Then Mike Chadway enters her world. Loudly. Mike is everything Abby despises. He's crude, unapologetic, and proudly dismissive of romance. He hosts a brutally honest segment called The Ugly Truth, where he delivers blunt advice about dating, sex, and attraction, advice Abby finds offensive, simplistic, and deeply unprofessional. To Abby, Mike represents everything wrong with modern dating culture. To the network, Mike represents ratings. When Mike is brought onto Abby's show to boost viewership, Abby is furious. She sees him as a walking HR violation, crude jokes, controversial opinions, no respect for boundaries. Their first interactions are tense, combative, and electric in all the wrong ways. Mike doesn't soften himself for Abby. He challenges her openly, mocking her rules, her lists, her belief that love can be managed like a production schedule. He claims women overthink relationships and men are far simpler than they want to admit. Abby is insulted. And unsettled. Because despite her objections, Mike's segment is a success. Ratings climb. Audiences respond. The network wants more of him. Abby is forced to work closely with the man who dismantles everything she believes in, on air and off. Their arguments become routine. Abby criticizes Mike's lack of tact. Mike mocks Abby's control issues. They spar constantly, each convinced the other is completely wrong. But beneath the insults and sarcasm, something strange happens. They listen. Abby begins dating her ideal man, Colin, a charming, successful doctor who seems to check every box on her list. On paper, he's perfect. Attractive. Kind. Stable. Everything Abby has been waiting for. And yet, something is missing. Colin is polite but distant. Interested but not fully engaged. Abby feels herself slipping back into insecurity. Analyzing texts, rehearsing conversations, trying to manage chemistry instead of feeling it. Mike notices immediately. Against her better judgment, Abby starts listening to Mike's advice, not because she agrees with it, but because it works. He coaches her through interactions with Colin, urging her to loosen control, embrace imperfection, and stop trying to impress with intellect alone. Abby hates how effective it is. She follows Mike's instructions reluctantly. Wearing clothes she wouldn't normally choose, behaving more spontaneously, letting go just enough to feel unfamiliar to herself. And Colin responds. The more Abby loosens up, the more attention she gets. The connection deepens, or at least appears to. But as Abby's relationship with Colin grows, so does her reliance on Mike. They talk constantly, strategizing, arguing, laughing more than they mean to. Mike sees through Abby's defenses in ways no one else does. Abby sees past Mike's crude exterior, catching glimpses of intelligence, self-awareness, and vulnerability he rarely shows. Neither of them acknowledges the shift. They frame it as necessity, convenience, work. But something is changing. Abby is no longer just defending her beliefs, she's questioning them. And Mike, for all his bravado, is paying closer attention to Abby than he ever intended to. The rules Abby lived by are cracking. And she doesn't yet realize how much it's going to cost her. Once the rules start working, it's hard to stop following them. Abby doesn't notice the shift at first, not consciously. She tells herself she's just experimenting, just loosening up a little, just seeing what happens when she stops controlling every outcome. Mike's advice, crude as it is, keeps producing results. Colin laughs more. He leans in closer. He texts back faster. The version of Abby that Mike coaches into existence seems to be the one Colin wants. And that should feel like success. Instead, it feels strangely hollow. Abby starts living in two modes. There's the Abby she presents to Colin. Playful, spontaneous, less analytical, carefully casual. And then there's the Abby who retreats back to Mike, debriefing every date, every look, every silence. She depends on Mike's commentary more than she wants to admit, waiting for his approval, his next instruction. Mike notices this too. He pretends not to. On the surface, he's triumphant. His philosophy is being proven right in real time. He watches Abby become more confident, more desirable, more relaxed, at least on the outside. And tells himself that's all this is. A job well done. Proof that his ugly truth works. But something about it nags at him. Because the more Abby follows his advice, the less she feels like herself. Mike sees it in the moments between jokes. The way Abby hesitates before acting, the way she checks herself, the way she seems to be performing rather than enjoying. He recognizes it because he's been doing the same thing for years, hiding behind a persona that keeps people at a distance. As Abby's relationship with Colin progresses, the cracks widen. Colin is kind, respectful, attractive. But he's also passive, content to enjoy the version of Abby he's been given without ever really asking who she is beneath it. Their conversations stay light, safe, pleasant. Abby finds herself working harder to maintain momentum, afraid that if she stops performing, interest will fade. Mike calls it out. He tells her the problem isn't chemistry, it's honesty. That she's dating an idea of compatibility instead of a person. That she's chasing approval instead of connection. Abby bristles. She accuses Mike of sabotaging her happiness, of refusing to let her have something good just because it doesn't fit his worldview. Mike fires back, telling her she's following rules she doesn't even believe in anymore. The arguments get louder, more personal. And in the middle of one of them, something slips. A look held too long. A pause that carries weight. A realization neither of them is ready to face. They're not just talking about Colin anymore. They're talking about each other. The tension finally snaps during a live segment gone wrong. Mike pushes too far, exposing the mechanics behind Abby's relationship in a way that makes her feel humiliated, not professionally, but personally. Abby realizes, all at once, how much of her private life has become content, strategy, entertainment. She feels stripped of agency, reduced to a case study in someone else's theory. She lashes out. Not with sarcasm, but with honesty. She tells Mike that his philosophy is cowardly, that hiding behind blunt truths is just another way to avoid being vulnerable. That dismissing romance is easier than admitting you're afraid of it. Mike doesn't deny it. He can't. The fallout is immediate. Abby pulls away completely. She doubles down on her relationship with Colin, determined to prove, to Mike, to herself, that she doesn't need him. She commits harder, ignoring the discomfort, pushing forward because stopping would mean admitting she doesn't know what she's doing. Mike retreats too. He jokes more aggressively on air. He sharpens his persona. He tells himself this is for the best, that he crossed a line, that Abby was never supposed to matter this much. But the distance doesn't bring relief. It brings clarity. Mike begins to see his own patterns. The way he keeps women at arm's length, the way he turns vulnerability into spectacle, the way he equates honesty with cruelty to avoid responsibility. Abby wasn't just a coworker he sparred with. She was someone who challenged him to be better, and he failed her. Abby reaches her breaking point shortly after. With Colin, the truth finally surfaces in a quiet, undeniable way. She realizes she's exhausted, not by love, but by pretending. She doesn't feel safe being fully herself. She feels managed, not known. And the realization hits hard. The relationship only worked as long as she followed someone else's script. She ends it. Not dramatically. Not angrily. Just honestly. The aftermath is unsettling. Abby is alone with herself for the first time in a long while. Without rules, without lists, without Mike's commentary. And in that silence she understands something she's been avoiding. Mike never asked her to be anyone else. He challenged her, yes. Provoked her. But he saw her, the controlled, anxious, brilliant, guarded woman underneath the polish, and stayed engaged anyway. The realization terrifies her. Because it means the thing she's been resisting isn't chaos. It's connection. Mike, meanwhile, makes a decision of his own. For the first time, he drops the act. On air, off air, he shows up differently. He admits fault. He takes responsibility. And when he goes to Abby, he doesn't come armed with advice, jokes, or defenses. He comes with truth. He tells her he was wrong, about her, about love, about pretending to be immune to feelings. He admits that his rules were never about understanding women, they were about protecting himself. And he tells her that if she wants something real, he's willing to try, without scripts, without performances, without guarantees. Abby doesn't respond immediately. She lets the silence sit. Then she tells him the truth too. That she's scared. That control made her feel safe. That letting go feels like standing on the edge of something she can't manage. But she also tells him that pretending hasn't made her happy, and that for the first time, she wants to try without knowing the outcome. They don't promise perfection. They promise honesty. And that, finally, feels like enough. The ugly truth isn't about dating rules. It's about the armor we wear to protect ourselves, and the courage it takes to take it off. Sometimes love doesn't ask you to change who you are. It asks you to stop hiding. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this narration, please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next story.